One last thing I wanted to mention. I was reading this article about this teacher strike in Los Angeles. And, the article that I read was like pure propaganda for the teachers because, whenever the teachers go on strike, they have to pretend they're going on strike for the kids, right? They're going on strike because they care about the kids and they care about education, which is a bunch of BS, right? I mean, they just want more money and they want more power, particularly when it comes to the unions themselves, but they can't say that, right? So they always have to pretend that it's about the kids. And so the way they're doing it this time is they're claiming that the reason they're on strike is because they're striking for smaller class sizes, right? That you have class sizes that are too large in the school district. And so the reason that the teachers are going on strike is they want to force these school districts to have fewer kids per class. And that sounds great, right? We care about the kids, right? That's why we want smaller class sizes, is because we care about the kids. And I agree that having, 50 kids in one class is too many kids. I mean, it's better to have 20, 25 kids. I would agree with the sentiment that smaller class sizes would be an improvement. But the teachers unions couldn't give a damn about the kids. That's not why they want smaller class sizes. They want smaller class sizes so they can force the school districts to hire more teachers, right? And if they hire more teachers, then more teachers are paying dues to the unions. So the more teachers that are on government payrolls, the bigger the unions get, the more clout they have, the more money they have, the more power they have, and that's why they're going on strike. It's not about the kids, right? I mean, they couldn't care less about the kids. The teachers' unions exist for the benefit of the unions themselves. And of course, one way they can have more teachers is to have fewer administrators. We have so many people that work in the school districts that are also union members that aren't in the classrooms. If we could get rid of a lot of those people, we could free up some money so that we can actually hire more teachers and fewer administrators. But no, they just want to maximize the number of people on government payrolls that are unionized because, again, it just gives them more political power and more money, which is all this is about, right? If we really cared about the kids, right, what would we do? Well, how about vouchers? Hey, if you want smaller class sizes, how about giving out vouchers so some of the kids in the public schools can then go to a private school? That would reduce class sizes in the public schools because more kids would be going to private schools, right? How about that? No, they don't want to be in favor of that, right? Because that interjects competition into the education system, which is something they don't want. In fact, if you really want to do what's right for kids, forget the vouchers, just get rid of government education entirely, right? Just eliminate government schools. And people think, oh, this is terrible. I mean, if we eliminate government schools, how are kids going to get educated? Well, we don't have government farms. How do people eat? Governments don't make our clothes. Why aren't we all running around naked? I mean, education is an important thing, right? All parents want their kids to be educated, right? And so if there's no government education, do you think we're all just going to raise a bunch of morons? No, we're going to buy education in the free market, just like we buy food for our kids, just like we buy clothes for our kids, just like we buy everything that our kids need, we would buy education. The difference is when you buy education through a private seller versus buying it through the government, which is not really buying it. The government is taking your money through taxes and then providing you supposedly education for free, but you're buying it with your taxes. But when you get it through the government, it's lousy, right? Just like anything that you were going to get. If the government was going to give us food, it'd be lousy food. If the government was going to supply us with our clothing, it'd be lousy clothing. I mean, look at these socialist countries. Look at how the Chinese used to dress under communism. Right? Look at those. They all looked exactly the same in those little outfits that they wore. What did they eat? Right? You get lousy food, you get lousy clothes when the government supplies it, and you get lousy education when the government supplies it. It's no different. Right? How do you get a good product? Competition. There's no competition with government. You got to have a profit incentive, right? You got to have a free market. You got to have entrepreneurs trying to educate our kids for less money, but at higher quality. So if we got rid of government schools and we got rid of all the taxes that fund government schools, then all that money would be in the private sector. And then parents would be able to buy the best education for their kids. Now, I know some people are going to think, well, what about really, really poor kids? Well, they'll have scholarships, right? There's always going to be scholarship. There's always going to be some extra money, and the schools will be able to allow kids to come into the schools that don't have the money. And so, we're not going to be a bunch of idiots if we don't have government schools. In fact, we have government schools and we're educating a bunch of idiots because we keep so many of our kids in government schools, they don't learn anything. They would actually learn something if they were in private schools. And also, by the way, too, when you get something for nothing, that's what it's worth, right? When a lot of these parents, their kids are going to school, they're not actually paying for it directly. So, they don't necessarily make sure the kids go do the homework sometimes, or they're not as accountable. Some of the parents, of course, not all the parents, but every parent, if you're actually writing a check and paying for the school, well, you're going to make sure the kid does the homework. You're going to make sure you're getting your money's worth because you're buying the education directly. So I think all the parents would be far more involved. But the idea that parents don't give a damn, that if the government didn't force kids to go to school, that if the government didn't provide public education, that nobody would be educated, that no one would go to school, that is complete absurd. That is the idea that liberal elites have, right? That but for them, but for the government, we're all a bunch of idiots. And nobody is going to do the right thing unless they're forced to do the right thing by the government. In general, people will do what's best for themselves, including their kids, because no one cares more about your kids than you, right? The government doesn't give a damn about you or your kids, right? So I'm not going to trust the government to make the right decisions for me or my kids. I'm going to make the right decisions for me. I'm going to make the right decision for my kids because I love my kids, right? I'm their father, right? The government doesn't have any relationship, right? So why people would want to entrust the livelihoods of their kids to some nameless third party who doesn't even know them. So the article, though, when I was reading the coverage of it, the newspaper bought into this whole idea because I read this article and it was all about how, hey, normally they're on strike for more money, but this time it's not about themselves. It's all about the kids. They're going on strike because they want smaller class sizes. BS. The media is buying into this propaganda and helping the teachers unions, pull the wool over the public's eye by pretending that this strike has anything else other to do than union power and union money.